How well do old minis react to modern painting techniques? Let's find out. Hello guys and welcome to the Bear and the Brush, and I got a really nice present some time ago. I got some Dark Elder Witches, really old pewter models from a dear friend, and I never got to paint them, and I always had the feeling that I wasn't really appreciative of them, like not doing them justice because they were a nice present, and I kind of felt like I was letting my friend down. So it's time to paint them, and it's time to do something really cool with them and try out some cool new stuff like the Xpress colors from Vallejo. So I started with a really simple base, and I went on with a zenithal black prime, or a white zenithal over a black primer, you know what I mean. And they were ready to paint basically. And if you want me to make a video about like all those basic painting techniques like priming and zenithal and whatnot, please hit me up in the comments. I really want to know how I could help you get into the hobby or get your hobby further along. And now you can actually see how long ago this project started. I received those minis before the Vallejo Xpress colors came out, and I bought the Vallejo Xpress colors the moment they came out, and then I wanted to make this video, but life happened, and well, this might be some time ago, but I really want to do this video now, so I'm doing it. Also, a nice little dry brush with a titanium white, or my favorite Schminke white, to just push the highlights on the edges is always a good idea if you want to do this SLAPCHOP contrast paint method. So let's start with some flesh tones, some undertones for the base, and some guns.
Guns. Lots of guns.
There's not much variation when it comes to skin tones in these Xpress colors, but I found a way to work around. But let's talk about that in a second. So the skin tone goes on perfectly, dries fine. And if you thin it down with a medium that comes in the set, you can actually create a different, much lighter skin tone, which also works pretty nice and goes on super smooth. It's always good to have mediums like that on hand and in the sets. And if you don't buy the sets, I mostly recommend buying the medium, be it speed paint or instant medium or whatever. Just get the medium to thin down your paints. Next up is the base, and I wanted some extra variation, some extra color variation on the base. So the basic part is a brown tone for the base, but I took the red and just put some red here and there on the base. I could have used some extra greens or blues or whatever, just adding some color variation and then going over that with a darker brown, and this creates a nice color varied base. It's not just a single brown tone, but you create different tones by overlapping the contrast paints, or in this case the Xpress paints. I then used Black Lotus on the guns, and I have to say this is my favorite of the Xpress paints, and one of my favorite paints when it comes to these speed painting paints. It has a slight tint, I don't know if it's a greenish or bluish tint, but it looks so freaking good, and it makes really dark recesses and leaves a nice steel-like finish on the rest. Let's go to the other parts of the minis. Hair, weapons, armor. I really want these guys to be bright, colorful and vibrant. I mean, I really want to test out the whole range as much as possible. I painted the hair in a purple tone, and I have to say I'm growing quite fond of these colors. They flow really well. It is easy to keep in the lines that you want to use them, but still they flow right into the right recesses, and they stain the lighter areas a good bit, but you see a good difference between the recess and the highlighted area. Same goes for the green, and this poisonous green looks actually pretty good. Switching to a blue for the pants, I came to the conclusion that all these paints are also pretty consistent in their consistency. Well, this sounds stupid, but you know what I mean. They don't behave drastically different when you switch color. I have to say they actually behave all kind of the same, which is nice and predictable. What wasn't that predictable was the red. Well, this has a lot of punch to it and I actually like it. Problem with such a vibrant red is if you want to highlight it later on, you are kind of getting into the orange zone, and that's a problem for me. So I would maybe dull down this into a darker red so I have room for highlighting later, but if you don't want to highlight, this is a perfect bright red. The bright blue is the first one that leaves a lot of the original color underneath visible. It's really bright and I use it for chains and skulls and stuff I wanted to look like silver, I guess. I don't know what to think of it. On the other hand, the darker green behaved really predictable again. I repainted some parts of the guns white so I could throw on a green so I could make them look glowy. And I already used the super bright green for the weapons, so I tried this green. I also tried a little OSL by painting over the purple on the hair if the gun was in range, and that also worked really well. Last bit was the armor, and for the armor I used this yellow orangey color. And we all know yellow and orange are horrible to paint. And in this case, they surprised me. They went on, they covered in one coat. I got a nice contrast from darker to lighter areas. I got nice dark recesses. This is a really nice way to paint yellow, or a quick dirty yellow. I'm gonna use that more often. To tone this down a bit, I grabbed an often overlooked product from Vallejo, and that's a Vallejo wash. Black wash to be precise, and people often overlook the washes from Vallejo, and I kind of found out why. I really don't want to hate on a paint range or a product from a paint range, but this ain't no non-oil. I have to say, this is far away from the quality of non-oil, even thinned down. It was hard to work with, it was really stainy, it didn't flow that well. Even if I make my own washes with the wash and glaze medium from Monument Hobbies, it turns out way better. But well, I was in for it, so I continued. But I am not that happy with the Vallejo wash. For the second mini I painted with it, I went in, put on the wash and dabbed off a lot of it. I wasn't able to grab it with a brush in the areas that I didn't want. It was too much, it was behaving awkwardly, so I dabbed it down and just took the bit of darkening that I could get from this wash. Not happy, sorry. I kind of want to do a verdict in between. So first of all, these minis really take that modern SLAPCHOP technique really well. There's enough detail on those minis to really get this to work. And that's amazing. Because if you have older miniatures, you can easily and really quickly paint them if you use modern techniques. Second of all, the paint. Wow, these Xpress paints are amazing. And to put them in order, they just fall right into second place or even share the first place with contrast paints. I really love contrast paints because they are really versatile, and some of those colors are so deep that you can thin them down and get a wider range of colors. The Xpress paints though, wow, they are so vibrant. They cover nicely with one coat. They get or tend to get better with a second coat if you want that deeper shadows. Absolutely amazing. Third place for me would be the Army Painter speed paints. I haven't tested the 2.0 range, and I have to say I will only test out the 2.0 range if they sponsor it. I'm not buying a second run of Army Painter. And last place is actually, yeah, I have to say it, the paints from Scale 75, the instant paint range. And that is the one and only paint range I regret buying. Why not kick it up a notch, huh? While we're at it, I grabbed some standard Vallejo paints and I added some edge highlights and some other highlights onto the miniature to give that paint job the extra boost it deserves. First thing you could do when you want to upgrade a paint job is edge highlighting. Grab a nice edge, grab a nice color, run along and just paint the edges of the armor. You can use your side of the brush for that, don't overload it, and you normally get really nice lines along all those raised edges. It really elevates the paint job. And then pick out a few selective areas that you want to push your highlights in. I mostly go for the glowy parts or for the shiny parts. With a huge shout out to my patrons, let's take it over to the grand reveal. Final verdict. I love those old minis. They are a joy to paint. The one I've painted before, the Beastman, was amazing to paint, and these ones were great fun. Also, the Vallejo Xpress range, right in the middle when it comes to price, right up top when it comes to performance. They are a joy to work with, and they work especially well for SLAPCHOP and if you have a nice Zenith on your miniature. Great paints. I can't wait to test out the new intense version of them. They brought out some new and more intensive colors, I guess. I don't know. I will check them out. I really want to try them. And also, some people talked about the new game range they made because they have a new medium or something. And I really want to test those out because I love my Vallejo paints. It's one of the, yeah, what can I say? It's solid paint. It's a paint range that always delivers, and I want to test them out. So that's my final verdict. As always, guys, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, whatever. It really helps out the channel, and I really appreciate it. If you want to, you can join the Discord, or you can join my Patreon, check out my merch. Everything is in the description. But for now, I really hope you enjoyed this video about the Vallejo Xpress colors, and I really hope to see you next time here on The Bear and the Brush. Bye, guys.